On the night of September 18, 1931, in northeastern China, a carefully planned explosion tore through the silence along a railway line. The Japanese military used it as a pretext to launch a full-scale invasion of Manchuria, known as the Mukden Incident. This attack not only altered the course of Chinese history, but also quietly marked the beginning of World War II in Asia. In the West, people may be familiar with the invasion of Poland or the attack on Pearl Harbor, but few know that in 1931, the flames of war had already ignited in Asia, and no one truly tried to stop it. For China, this was no accidental clash. It was the beginning of a national tragedy. The invasion marked the start of a brutal 14-year resistance and turned countless ordinary citizens overnight into refugees, soldiers, or heroes. I wasn't there that night, but every time my grandfather spoke of it, his voice would lower, as if afraid of waking memories buried in the earth. The gunfire, he said, still echoed as if it had gone off right next to him. It was not merely the prelude to a war. It was the beginning of our nation's suffering. And it was only the beginning.
Night fell on September 18, 1931, in the northern outskirts of Shenyang, near a place called Liuxiu Lake. Convoys of Japanese military trucks crept silently through the darkness. Along the South Manchuria Railway, a detachment of Japanese Kwantung Army soldiers crouched by the tracks, carefully planting explosives. This was no accident. It was a meticulously planned act of sabotage designed to frame China for an attack it never made. At exactly 10:20 p.m., the explosives were detonated. The blast tore a shallow gash into the railway. Minutes later, the Kwantung Army's headquarters declared, "Chinese troops have attacked the South Manchuria Railway. This is an act of aggression against Japan's sovereignty." It was a lie, a pretext, but it served its purpose. With the explosion as justification, gave the order for a full-scale assault. Within hours, tens of thousands of Japanese soldiers advanced in waves toward Shenyang, Changchun, and Jilin. 3 columns, swift and ruthless, descended on Manchuria. Yet the region was not defenseless. Over 200,000 Chinese troops of the Northeastern Border Defense Army were stationed across Manchuria, well-armed, well-trained, and numerically superior. But then came the fateful order from Nanjing, the capital of the Chinese nationalist government. Do not resist. The rationale? To avoid escalating the situation, Chinese soldiers stood in stunned disbelief. The enemy was at the gates, but they were told to lay down their arms. And so, without meaningful resistance, the Kwantung Army swept through the region. Within days, Shenyang, Changchun, and Jilin all fell. The 3 northeastern provinces, Manchuria, were lost overnight. Not an inch of land was defended. Not a single shot was fired in its defense. On the streets, civilians fled in panic. Some stumbled through alleyways, clutching their children. Others carried parents on their backs, eyes wide with helpless despair. And those young men in uniform, gripping their rifles, stood motionless. Should they fire? Could they fight back? No one gave them an answer. They were ordered to remain still while their homeland was taken. In a single night, they became citizens of a nation already lost. But amid the ice and snow of Manchuria, not everyone was willing to kneel. One man stood up. His name was Ma Hanshan, courtesy name Xu Fang. Born on November 30, 1885, in Huade County, Changtu Prefecture, Fengshan Province, now known as Gongxiuling, Jilin Province. He had trained in the cavalry of the Qing Army, and later served in the ranks of the Beiyang warlords, fighting in campaigns after campaigns across the country. But when the nation was in peril, he made a different choice, to abandon personal ambition and stand for his homeland. After the fall of the Northeast to Japan, Ma Hanshan sat in the governor's hall of Kikkar, eyes fixed on a map hanging on the wall. His advisors urged him,
The situation is hopeless. It's better to preserve your forces.
But he rose slowly to his feet and uttered the words that would soon echo across China.
Though the Northeast is vast, there is no room left to stand. I will not watch my homeland fall without a fight. I will not kneel.
He convened a war council that very night. The order was given: mobilize the troops, fortify the defenses, and prepare for battle. Ma himself penned a proclamation, posted at every street corner.
Japan's invasion is unjust. The people of Heilongjiang must rise together in defense of the nation.
And the people answered. Though many families were going hungry themselves, they still came forward bringing rice, flour, even precious eggs wrapped in straw. Merchants gave silver and supplies. Blacksmiths worked day and night, forging bayonets and bullet molds. One old man slipped his daughter-in-law's gold earrings and wedding ring into a supply bag, whispering,
"Let the boys at the front fire one more shot."
Soldiers gathered along the banks of the Songhua River digging trenches, building barricades, setting the line of defense. They knew this was a battle they had to fight. The northern wind, thick with ice and frost, lashed against the soldiers' faces. On the frozen plains of Heilongjiang, the Nenjiang Iron Bridge, known as Jiangqiu, became the front line in the standoff between Chinese defenders and Japan's Kwantung Army. Across the river, the Japanese had deployed overwhelming force. Tanks roared to life. Cavalry formations stretched across the horizon. Warplanes circled low overhead, like hawks scanning for prey, probing every inch of the Chinese defenses. On the bridge itself rode General Ma Hanshan, clad in a heavy winter coat, saber at his side, mounted on horseback. He called out to his men with a voice that cut through the wind.
Brothers, today, we're not just holding this bridge. We're holding on to the last shred of our nation's dignity.
His troops rose to their feet, saluting with rifles in hand, eyes burning with resolve. The Japanese struck first. Artillery shells fell like rain, tearing through snow and earth, sending shrapnel and slush flying in all directions. A section of the bridge collapsed under the barrage. Smoke and cold mingled in the air, thick and suffocating. Ma Hanshan raised his sword, the blade flashing in the pale winter light. His voice cut through gunfire and wind.
Feel our might. Go! Go!
The command jolted Chinese troops into action. Rifles cracked. Machine guns roared. And mortars arced through the sky. The sudden counterattack stunned the Japanese, halting their advance. But the fighting dragged on, ammunition ran low. Chinese soldiers scavenged fallen enemy weapons. Captured Arisaka rifles, grenades, anything usable. Wave after wave, they pushed forward. When one group fell, another stepped in. Blood soaked the snow. Smoke thickened above the bridge. Wounded soldiers fired from rubble. Others died with rifles clenched tight, refusing to yield even in death. By the third day of battle, one officer's courage stood above the rest. His name was Wang Diangxiang, a company commander in the 3rd Battalion of the Heilongjiang Army. 30 years old, tall and broad-shouldered, he was known among his comrades as a man of iron. Over 3 brutal days, he had already repelled the enemy time and again. That morning, he was badly wounded. One eye was wrapped in bandages, blood soaked through his uniform, and his ammunition was completely spent. Yet he refused to retreat. As the Japanese launched another charge, Wang shouted over the gunfire.
"Brothers! Fix bayonets! Make them bleed!"
He was the first to leap from the trenches, blade in hand, charging straight into the enemy ranks. A dozen men followed, their bayonets glinting in the pale winter light. Screams of panic and agony erupted as they tore into the enemy line. When the fighting was over, General Ma Shanshan walked the battlefield near the ruins of Jiangqiu. He came upon Wang Dianxing's body, slumped amid churned snow and mud, soaked in blood. His hands still clenched tightly around the hilt of his blade. Ma stood in silence. Then, slowly, he removed his military cap, bowed deeply to his fallen comrades. The Battle of Jiangqiu raged for 3 days and nights from November 4th to 6th, 1931. Japan sent in artillery, tanks, cavalry, and even chemical gas on the final day, hoping to crush Chinese defenses with modern firepower. But Ma Hanshan's troops stood firm. Day 1. Positions were lost and retaken. Soldiers fought to the death. Day 2. When shells ran out, they used rifles. When bullets ran out, they fixed bayonets. Then came shovels, rocks, whatever they could find. Day 3. The bridge burned, trenches collapsed. But the line held, the flag stood, and the men did not fall back. Corpses piled atop one another, blood seeped through ice and snow. Wounded soldiers, lips frozen, still cried.
Kill enemy.
Encircled and desperate, one voice shouted,
For yourself, don't get taken alive.
Ma Hanshan never left the front. He led, fought, and endured alongside his men. In the end, no reinforcements, no food, no ammo. He gave the final order.
Retreat. Live to fight again. We will definitely fight back.
They lost the bridge, but held the dignity of the Northeast, the dignity of China. After Ma Hanshan withdrew from Jiangqiu, he neither fled nor surrendered. Instead, he returned to northern Heilongjiang, rallying soldiers, local gentry, and ordinary citizens. From this, he formed a new force, the anti-Japanese Volunteer Army. It had no official backing, no military budget, and no formal structure. Their uniforms didn't match. Some wore military coats, others cotton jackets or plain civilian clothes. But they shared one thing: a fierce will to fight back and to avenge their fallen brothers at Jiangqiu. Ma led his volunteer forces in the frozen North Nanjiang, high heat Yulin Bor, and Huli, using their knowledge of the land to wage relentless guerrilla warfare. They burned Japanese outposts, sabotaged supply lines, assassinated collaborators, and rescued captured civilians. Across Manchuria, sparks of resistance caught fire. By early 1932, volunteer armies had grown to over 300,000 fighters across China, led by men like Ma Hanshan, Li Du, Wang Delin, Feng Hanhai, and Tang Juwu. These self-organized militias became the backbone of Chinese resistance. Critics scoffed at their outdated weapons and chaotic tactics, but no one could deny their courage, their sacrifice, and their burning will to defend their homeland. September 18th was a day of humiliation. Jiangqiu was a moment of defiance. And Ma Hanshan, he was not just a man, but an echo of a cry buried deep in the hearts of millions of Chinese people. The 14-year war of resistance began on that infamous night, staged railway explosion, a real invasion. But it was also the night when China began to awaken. From hesitation to resistance, from retreat to blood-soaked determination. History teaches us this: peace is never a gift. It is earned with the blood of our ancestors, with every bullet fired, every blade drawn. Today, we may gaze out from high-rise towers or walk the peaceful streets of our cities. Our children laugh, backpacks bouncing, walking safely home. But we must not forget that broken, blood-stained railway, that shattered bridge called Jiangqiu, that voice that roared through the storm, "I will not kneel." It was not just Ma Hanshan's vow. It was the vow of a people. May we remember it always. Never forget September 18th.